Welcome to the medical nursing unit. Cardiovascular system disorder, valvular disease, and hematologic pathologies. Valvular disease. The valvular disease, those are the conditions that affect the valves. The first condition is stenosis. In valvular stenosis, the valve orifice is constricted and narrowed, so blood cannot flow forward, and the workload of the cardiac chamber in the front of the diseased valve increase the pressure. So the pressure it arises in the chamber to overcome resistance to flow through the valve, causing the myocardium to work harder and producing myocardial hypertrophy. In few words, stenosis here, the valve does not open correctly. You know that the valves can open and close to allow blood flow from chamber to another chamber, and to prevent the returns back of the blood. Here in stenosis, the valve is constricted, means what? It doesn't open properly to allow the blood to flow from one chamber to another chamber. That will increase the pressure in the chamber in the front of this valve. It is not understandable, I think. Let's take an example. If the pulmonary valve stenosis, means what? The blood will not flow from the right ventricle to the artery, to the pulmonary artery correctly. Means there in the right ventricle will be required high pressure to see how to overcome the stenosed valves. That is why the pressure in the ventricle, in the right ventricle, will be increased. Okay, I think it's understandable with this example. Let's see the mitral stenosis. Etiology is rheumatic fever is the leading cause of mitral stenosis. Other less common etiology of mitral stenosis include congenital mitral valve stenosis, mitral annular calcification with extension onto the leaflets, systemic lupus erythematosus, rheumatoid arthritis, left atrial myxoma, and infective endocarditis with large vegetation. Pure or predominant mitral stenosis occur in approximately 40% of all patients with rheumatic heart disease and a history of rheumatic fever. The clinical manifestation of mitral stenosis by chest pain, ascites, hepatomegaly, nocturnal dyspnea on exertion, orthopnea, hemoptysis, edema, fatigue, palpitation. Presence of mitral pictures indicates chronic severe mitral stenosis leading to reduced cardiac output and vasoconstriction. A jugular vein distension also may be seen. The apical impasse may be laterally displaced or not palpable, especially in case of severe mitral stenosis. This can be explained by decreased left ventricular filling. Pulmonary hypertension. The auscultation reveals a loud, fast heart sound. Diagnosis: we can use ECG, chest X-ray, and we can have a different diagnosis: atrial defect, left atrial myxoma, and mitral regurgitation. Aortic stenosis causes inflammatory damage caused by rheumatic heart disease also, or congenital malformation, degeneration resulting from calcification. Here you can see now the the aortic valve will be contracted and will not open properly to allow blood from left ventricle to the aorta. In the case of aortic stenosis, the orifice of the aortic valve narrows, causing diminished blood flow from the left ventricle onto the aorta. Outflow obstruction increases pressure within the left ventricle as it tries to eject blood through the narrowed opening. Yes, it is understandable. And the manifestation will be fatigue, dyspnea, organization, decreased stroke volume, reduced systolic blood pressure, narrowed pulse pressure, bradycardia, left ventricular hypertrophy, angina pectoris, and systolic murmurs. The dysrhythmia and mechanical infarction can be complication. What we call regurgitation. Regurgitation, this is the opposite of stenosis. The valvular regurgitation, also called insufficiency or incompetence, is a valve path where the valve leaflet or caps fail to close completely, permitting blood flow to continue even when the valve is supposed to be closed. This is the opposite of stenosis, because during stenosis the valve does not open correctly, but in regurgitation the valve opened but does not close properly. Consequences: they diminish the myocardial contractility, reduce ejection fraction, increase diastolic pressure, and ventricular failure. The management: nitroglycerin, diuretics, antibiotics, prothetic valve replacement can be used. We have other types of mitral regurgitation, aortic regurgitation, and tricuspid regurgitation. Now, we cannot develop it in summary. This is the failure of the valves to close properly. Another pathology is mitral valve prolapse syndrome. The anterior and the posterior caps of mitral valve below upward into the atrium during systole. Yeah, this is the prolapse of the valve. The caps are enlarged, thickened, possibly secondary to collagenous abnormalities, and the caudal tendon cordis may be elongated, permitting the valve caps to strengthen upward. The manifestations: those are the palpitations, tachycardia, syncope. When we have the syncope, this is fainting. Now, syncope, this is dizziness and faint. And fatigue, lethargy, weakness, dyspnea, anxiety, depression, panic attack, atypical chest pain. Okay, let's see the heart failure. A heart failure, sometimes known as congestive heart failure, occurs when your heart muscle does not pump blood as well as it should. Certain conditions such as narrowed arteries in your heart, coronary artery disease, or high blood pressure gradually leave your heart too weak or stiff to feed and pump efficiently. And now, in few words, the heart failure, this is that the heart muscle does not pump blood sufficiently. It doesn't. The heart does not accomplish its function of pumping blood. Is when at that time we will say the heart is heart failure. We will have a type of heart failure. We have a left-sided heart failure, right-sided heart failure, systolic heart failure, diastolic heart failure, and mixed systolic and diastolic heart failure. Left-sided heart failure, fluid may back up in your lungs, causing shortness of breath. It is understandable. Now, when we say left-sided heart failure, we understand the left atrium and the left ventricles. Now, if the myocardium is not able to pump the blood in the left ventricles, Means what? The blood comes from the lungs, will come in the left ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle, and the heart will not pump to eject the blood from the left ventricles to the aorta. So there will be accumulation of the blood in the ventricles and in the atrium, left atrium. That will cause the blood to turn back to the lungs. So the fluid will back up in the lungs. That will cause the shortness of breath. I think here you understand. But on the right side of the heart failure, the fluid may back up into your abdomen, legs, and feet, causing swelling. Normally, when the cat is presenting edema, we can think about the right side of the heart failure. What happens here? The fluid may back up into your abdomen, legs, and feet, causing swelling. This is related to the failure of right ventricles to pump the blood so that the blood can go through a pulmonary artery. So the blood will accumulate in the right ventricles, so that the blood come from the vena cavas will not see where to go, so they will return back into the system. That's why we will see the edema. When we say systolic heart failure, here the left ventricles can't contract vigorously, indicating a pumping problems. It will be called systolic heart failure because the left ventricles can't contract vigorously. And the diastolic heart failure, also called heart failure with the preserved ejection fraction. The left ventricles can't relax or feel fully, indicating a feeling problems. We know that the heart pump and relax. This is the two movement. Now, when the left ventricles fail to pump, to eject the vigorously the blood, that will be systolic heart failure. But when the left ventricles fail to relax, during relaxing, the heart refill the blood, and so that they can really contract to eject enough blood. But if the left ventricle fail to relax, it will be called diastolic heart failure. We can have a mixed systolic and diastolic heart failure where those two forms exist. The heart will not be able to pump in the relaxing. This is a mixed systolic and diastolic heart failure. The factors that affect preload and afterload myocardial contractility, heart rate, and metabolic state can lead to ventricular dysfunction and heart failure. This is etiology of heart failure. What is the preload and afterload? We are going to see it in later. So coronary artery disease and heart attack can cause the heart failure. High blood pressure, faulty heart valves, damage to the heart muscles, myocarditis, heart defect you are born with, abnormal heart rhythm. Other disease, chronic disease such as diabetes, HIV, hypothyroidism, or buildup iron or protein also may contribute to heart failure. Preload and afterload. The preload is the degree of myocardial distension prior to shortening. Now, as initially demonstrated, an intrinsic property of myocardial cell is that the force of the contraction depends on the length to which they are stretched. The greater the stretch, the greater the force of contractions. Now, here we have said that there is two movements: the heart contracts and the heart relax. During relaxing, there is a stretch. They stretch so that they can be filled enough blood. The degree to which the myocardium stretched, this is what we call preload. It is myocardial distension prior to shortening. Yeah. So the degree the myocardial stretched is what the preload. The preload is the degree of stretching of myocardium during relaxation, and that will determine the force that will exerted by the myocardium in the pumping the blood in the blood. Okay. Now, afterload is the force against which ventricles must act in order to eject blood, and is largely depend on the arterial blood pressure and the vascular tone. Yes, yeah. When the vascular the arterial blood pressure, when the pressure in arterial is when there is a resistance. So when there is the arterial resistance, means the heart will use a many force to against the resistance of the vessels. Afterload is the force against which the ventricles must act in order to eject the blood. A manifestation of heart failure, left heart failure, systolic failure. We have said that the systolic failure is when the left ventricles fail to pump. This is pulmonary congestion. This is a manifestation of left heart failure. There is a backward of the blood, the back of the blood to the pulmonary, and it will cause pulmonary edema. Dyspnea on exertion, hypotension, cough also may be dry or moist with pink sputum. Diminished oxygen saturation or cyanosis. Capillary refill will be superior with greater than 3 seconds. A diminished left ventricle ejections. Forward failure causes diminished tissue perfusion. Yes, there will be diminished tissue perfusion, of course, because the left ventricles is not pumping the blood so that the blood can go to all systems. So we will have diminished tissue perfusion. It is understandable here. Or we have oliguria and nocturia. In oliguria, of course, oliguria, this is the few urine. This is the production of the urine. And oliguria will occur, of course, because the blood is not pumped from the left ventricle to the systems, and we understand the volume of the blood that reaches to the kidney will be determined by the cardiac output. A light failure or diastolic failure, we will have the congestion of the vessel and the peripheral tissues. Here we see the edema, the pitting edema, because the backup of the blood from a right ventricles to the systems. Okay, distension of jugular vein also. Yeah, you have the distension of the jugular vein, narrowing pulse pressure, pitting edema, hepatomegaly, ascites, weakness, anorexia, and nausea, and weight gain. Those are the symptoms and the signs of right-sided heart failure. Diagnostic studies. We have chest X-ray, left ventricular ejection fraction, echocardiogram, cardiac catheterization, left ventriculogram, and pulse oximetry to rule out oxygen saturation. What the management? The lifestyle modification, the salt avoidance, reduction of body weight. This is the prevention, the modification of lifestyle. We have to arrest. Medication are selected according to the type of failure. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors can be given. Vasodilator, aspirin, calcium channel blockers, digitalis, and B blockers, diuretics treat the cause. And even surgery, or what we can call the myomectomy and heart transplant, can be done. Okay, nursing management, we can refer to the nursing care plan. Medical nursing, chapter 3, hematologic pathologies. Alteration of erythrocyte function. Anemia. Anemia is a reduction in the total number of circulating erythrocytes or a decrease in the quality or quantity of hemoglobin. The cause of anemia are either a retarded production of erythrocytes or blood loss or increased erythrocyte destruction. In general, anemia, this is a reduction in the red blood cells or erythrocyte or a reduction in hemoglobin. We know very well that erythrocyte or red blood cells carries oxygen to the cells. Means what? The anemia. During anemia, we are having hypoxemia and hypoxia. When we say anemia, we understand that hypoperfusion in oxygen to the body cells. And the question is related to hemoglobin or red blood cells, as well as the red blood cells and hemoglobin are responsible to call out the oxygen. Let's see the classification of anemia. We have first macrocytic normochromic anemia. It is also called megaloblastic anemia. Here, this is large abnormally shaped erythrocyte, but normal hemoglobin concentration. This anemia is related to abnormal shaped erythrocyte. When you have an abnormal shape of erythrocyte, now oxygen will not attach to hemoglobin correctly. Pernicious anemia. The pernicious anemia is the lack of vitamin B12 for erythropoiesis. We know that the vitamin B12 is essential for erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis, this is the system that produces red blood cells. Abnormal DNA and RNA synthesis in the erythroblast, premature cell death. We have also folate deficiency anemia. This is lack of folate for erythropoiesis. We know very well also the folate is having a major role in erythropoiesis in the formation of the blood cells. So when the lack of folate, we have a premature cell death of the red blood cells. So there will result in the reduction of red blood cells. Microcytic hypochromic anemia. This is small abnormally shaped erythrocyte and reduced hemoglobin concentration. What the difference between macrocytic? In macrocytic, you have abnormal shape of erythrocyte, but the normal hemoglobin. But in microcytic, you have abnormal shaped erythrocyte, but here you have a reduced hemoglobin concentration. We have iron deficient anemia, lack of iron for hemoglobin production, insufficient hemoglobin. We know that iron, this is the element important for hemoglobin. If you lack iron, deficient iron, maybe from the nutrition, we will have a problem of hemoglobin production. Sideroblast anemia. This is dysfunction ion uptake by erythroblast and defective porphyrin and heme synthesis. It may be congenital or acquired, or drug toxin can cause dysfunctional ion uptake. What thalassemia? The thalassemia is impaired synthesis of alpha and beta chain of hemoglobin. Yeah, this is thalassemia. Phagocytosis or abnormal erythroblast in the marrow. It is a congenital genetic defect. Normocytic normochromic anemia. This is destruction or depression of normal erythroblast or mature erythrocyte. It is destruction. Aplastic anemia. This is insufficient erythropoiesis due to depressed stem cell proliferation resulting in bone marrow aplasia. Here, aplastic anemia, that this will be insufficiency in the red blood cells that due to the depressed system cell proliferation. Post-hemorrhagic anemia. Here, this is when you lose the blood. blood loss due to acute or chronic hemorrhage that stimulate increased erythropoiesis and deplete body iron. Hemolytic anemia, premature destruction or release of mature erythrocyte in the circulation. We know that the erythrocyte have a lifespan of 120 days. Now, this is hemolytic can come before those days. Hemolytic can be caused by some diseases, example for malaria. For the malaria, because the malaria is destroy the red blood cells, here we have hemolytic anemia. Sickle cell anemia. This is abnormal hemoglobin synthesis, abnormal cell shape with susceptible to damage releases and phagocytosis. It is a congenital dysfunction. Anemia of chronic inflammation. When you have a chronic inflammation, also we develop anemia, abnormal increased demand for new erythrocyte. Yeah. When you have a chronic inflammation, you will need more blood cells, including red blood cells. So you will have increased demand for new erythrocyte. Progression of anemia and the clinical manifestation, pathophysiology, etiology, events such as most of the time decreased erythropoiesis or blood loss, increased destruction lead to decreased red blood cells, lead to decreased hemoglobin with anemic condition. With decreased hemoglobin, there is a decrease in oxygen carrying capacity with hypoxemia that results in tissue hypoxia. The tissue hypoxia is responsible for various manifestations. Now you have weakness, is related to lack of oxygen. We increased fatigue, pallor. What is called this skin and the mucous membrane near the bed become like whitish. Now the pallor. Increased respiratory rate, death, exhaustion or dyspnea, dizziness, fainting, lethargy. The tissue hypoxia may also cause ischemia and muscle claudication. And this is the pathophysiology of anemia. We can understand it very well. And we can see the anemia cause hypoxia. The hypoxia, this is a condition in which the cells lack oxygen, so that even it results in the cell death. The tissue hypoxia also leads to compensatory mechanisms such as increased heart rate with increased oxygen demand. Yeah, it is understandable here. When you have the hypoxia, when we will have hypoxia, means we will have a cell demand in oxygen. So while we will cell demand in oxygen, the heart will increase the rate to compensate the lack of oxygen. That will the increased oxygen demand, resulting in the increased erythropoietin and stimulation of bone marrow. Yeah, other compensatory mechanisms include the increased stroke volume that lead to hyperdynamic circulation with high output, cardiac failure, and cardiac murmur. The renal compensatory mechanism is increased renin aldosterone response with the increased salt and water retention and the increased extracellular fluid, resulting in edema. The edema related to anemia this is the process how the edema related anemia can result. It results in the compensatory mechanism, of course. Yeah. What are the laboratory tests? We say anemia if the hemoglobin is low 10 gram per deciliter, or hematocrit is low. What is hematocrit? Hematocrit, this is the percentage of the red blood cells in the total volume of the blood. A reticulocyte count, high in the post-hemorrhagic and hemorrhagic anemia, plasma iron, low in iron deficiency anemia and chronic inflammation, serum B12 low in pernicious anemia, bone marrow biopsy to rule out aplastic anemia. Those are laboratory tests. What will be the treatment for anemia? Treat the cause first. Iron therapy in iron deficiency anemia. We can give transfusion in post-hemorrhagic anemia. We can have B12 therapy in pernicious anemia. Or blood transfusion and marrow transplant is the treatment of aplastic anemia. Alteration leukocyte function. Now we will have leukemia. When I say leukemia, it is a chronomalignant disorder of the blood and blood-forming organs, causing an accumulation of dysfunctional cells and a loss of cell division regulation. Now, leukemia, it is a cancer. It is a blood cancer. And we know the cancer, this is abnormal production or uncontrolled production of the cells. Now, this is a malignant disorder of the blood. The common pathologic feature of all forms of leukemia is uncontrolled proliferation of leukocytes, causing an overcrowding of bone marrow and decreased production and function of normal hematopoietic cells. 4 types of leukemia. We have acute myelogenous, acute lymphocytic, chronic myelogenous, and chronic lymphocytic. Acute myeloid leukemia. Risk factors: heredity and genetic, radiation, chemical, and other occupational exposure. Clinical manifestation: we see anemia, leukocytosis, leukopenia or leukocyte dysfunction, thrombocytopenia, fatigue, anorexia and weight loss, fever, signs of abnormal hemostasis, bone pain, lymphadenopathy, no specific cough, and headache. Diagnosis: cell blood count, clotting studies, virologies, bone marrow aspirate and biopsy, chest radiography, and MRI. Treatment: induction chemotherapy, post-emission therapy, stem cell transplant. Let's see coagulation disorders. In coagulation disorders, we have hemophilia. Hemophilia is an X-linked recessive hemorrhagic disease. It is a genetic disease due to mutations in the F8 genes, hemophilia A or classic hemophilia, or F9 gene, hemophilia B or Christmas disease. Patients with hemophilia have normal breeding time and platelet count. Hemophilia A is a disease of males transmitted by women. Manifestation of hemophilia: bleeding is a characteristic sign of hemophilia. Bleeding after minor trauma, bleeding in the joint, soft tissue, and muscle. Treatment: factor replacement therapy. Avoid drugs that hamper platelet function such as aspirin and ibuprofen. No transfusion therapy. Oral antifibrinolytic drugs can be given. What do we call disseminated intravascular coagulation? DIC is an acquired clinical syndrome due to unregulated release of thrombin with subsequent fibrin formation and accelerated fibrinolysis. It may be localized to one specific organ or generalized involving multiple organs. In disseminated intravascular coagulation, we will see many clots in different organs. Now, this is a fatal conditions, as well as the clot will be will disrupt the blood circulation anyway. With the risk factor, this is obstetric accident, abortion placenta, eclampsia, amniotic fluid embolism, the fetal syndrome. Infection also, metastatic malignancy, leukemia, excessive burns, traumatic splash injury, and tissue necrosis. You can see here, excessive burns can cause the multiple coagulations. And when you have an accident, you should have many and more clots. Ulcerative jaundice, a vascular disorder also, aortic aneurysm. This is the rupture of the artery. shock, and the prosthetic devices that can cause the multiple clots in the system. This will be called DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. So we will see the coagulation anywhere. The clinical manifestation of DI this is have a problem because it affects many systems. It can have a clinical manifestation for all systems. In the tegmental system, we have a hemorrhage, arising from puncture sites or incisions. Now we should have hemorrhage. Central nervous system, subarachnoid hemorrhage. Gastrointestinal system, occult bleeding to massive gastrointestinal bleeding, abdominal distension, malaise and weakness. Pulmonary system, pulmonary infraction, adaptive respiration distress syndrome, cyanosis, tachypnea, hypoxemia. Renal system, hematuria, oliguria, and renal failure. We diagnose the DIC by looking for elevated level of FDP, fibrin degradation products, elevated plasma, platelet count, and prolongation of prothrombin time. The goal of treatment is elimination of underlying pathology, restoring hemostasis, continuous infusion, heparin, antithrombin, 3 concentrate, management of hemoglobin, hemorrhagic symptoms, transfusion, maintain organ function. Other hematologic disease, we have a Hodgkin lymphoma, total lymphoma. These lymphoma that are malignant neoplasm that develop from the proliferation of lymphocyte, histiocyte, and the precursors and derivatives in the lymphoid tissue. Hodgkin lymphoma lies in a single node within a chain of nodes and is spread characteristically to adjacent node. Yeah, this is Hodgkin lymphoma. The lymphocytes are transformed into red Sternberg cells that secrete and release specific cytokines and result in the accumulation of inflammatory cells, producing the local and systemic effect. So, Hodgkin lymphoma, this will be arise from one node, single nodes within a chain of nodes. Now, the risk factors: family history, prior tonsillectomy, also a high socioeconomic status, and infection. Manifestation: we have an enlargement, painless mass in the neck, mediastinal mass or chest X-ray, lymphadenopathy, intermittent fever, night sweat, weight loss, skin lesion. Okay. You can see now this is this is Hodgkin's lymphoma. The Hodgkin's lymphoma it affects it starts by one node, but by 9 nodes in among a chain of nodes, but split in those nodes. Now, what we call Burkitt lymphoma. Burkitt lymphoma is a tumor with a unique clinical and epidemiologic feature. It occurs in children from East Africa and in New Guinea, and is characterized by a facial mass around the jaw. It can be metastasized to the central nervous system. Now we can see this is those manifestation of Burkitt lymphoma. The Burkitt lymphoma. Now you can see those people who have a problem in the mouth like that. This is having Burkitt lymphoma.